consequence of the monsoon rains and of course of climate change and such events. And in Pakistan, monsoons have started, so a lot of occurrences due to these monsoon rains such as floods and landslides will be occurring. So we'll be talking about that in our program and what is being done for the victims of the most recent flash floods, as well as what to do going forward for the country during this monsoon season will be discussed as well. Also in our next segment, we will be talking about how the State Bank has released its quarterly economic report and has said that 50% of Balochistan's households might be facing severe or mild food insecurity. Now, food insecurity is a result of not being able to provide all the people the level of nutrition and food that they require all over the country. And there are disparities which occur between the provinces, the most food insecure being Balochistan and the most food secure being Gilgit-Baltistan and KPK. So why do these disparities occur when Pakistan is known to be a pretty self-sufficient country as far as staple food provision is concerned for its citizens? So we will be discussing that as well in our program. And of course, in our last segment, we'll be discussing about the state of the stock markets today. We'll be talking about how they did and hopefully if there's been any movement up or hopefully up, not down. Let's begin with our program now. Let's speak with our guest today in the studio. We have with us Brigadier Mukhtar Ahmed, who is a spokesperson for the NDMA, and he is a member operations. Thank you so much, Brigadier Saab, for being with us today. First of all, I'd like to start with this flash flood that took place in a village in Neelam Valley in Azad Kashmir. This happened at night and people were sleeping. There were 22 people killed, mosques, houses, shops were washed away, and 18 of those people were sleeping in a mosque. They were part of a Tablighi Jamaat. They were fast asleep. They had no idea what was going to happen to them. So can you please tell us a bit about how this flash flood happened in such a sudden amount of time that nobody could prepare, nobody could get away? It's the nature of flash floods. Could you please explain that to us?
Thank you, Sharmeen, for first of all for inviting in your program. And you have asked about this Neelam Valley incident. This happened in Leswal village, Tehsil Atmakam, where there was Pakistan Met Department issued the warning alert about this happening, and this is likely to happen. That was issued, and we shared it with our State Disaster Management Authority and respective for awareness with other stakeholders, that from 13th onward there is likely to be a spell of heavy spell of rains which can cause flooding in the Jhelum River in the upside of the...
Okay, so warnings were given.
Yeah, it was given.
So is there an issue with the communication that the people living there did not get the message, or they didn't understand what was the problem?
In fact, they get the message, but what happens is that this rain forecast really, it is not in belt of Pakistan, it is likely to affect. And this is AJK, GB, Upper Punjab area up to Lahore, Faisalabad division, Gujranwala division, they are likely to be affected. As you must be aware that there was a lot of rain in Lahore yesterday and today. That is also around crossing 150 millimeter figure in some part of the Lahore city.
So flash flooding can occur in Lahore as well?
No, not flash flooding.
But
that
floods.
is called urban flooding.
Urban flooding.
That happens because of the sewerage system and other things choke. This year, interestingly, this monsoon contingency plan which we prepare, I was just showing you earlier, this is also based on the seasonal forecast which is issued to us by the Pakistan Met Department. They have in that seasonal forecast, they have informed us that because of the rise in temperature, there is a likelihood that we face this year, instead of riverine flood, urban flooding, flash flooding, and some hill torrents like in DG Khan and other areas.
Right. So going back to the incident in Neelam Valley, how many people are still missing? And
29.
Is there any hope for recovering those people? And
we can hope and we can pray that we find some people alive, and still efforts are on. But I have seen some pictures, because we have already moved our mobile ops room that is located over there of NDMA. There are 2 officers who are continuously reporting us and asking us whatever support is required, and we are coordinating from here Islamabad. That is a very deep area where this water has gone in and is flowing towards the Jhelum River. It is very difficult to find literally in that very area 1 to 2 kilometers that dead bodies might have our bodies may Allah save them, might have traveled quite a long distance, and we have to search the complete belt. For that, resources are mobilized, people are working on it, but let's hope and pray that we find some
inshallah.
survivors of that.
And how about the people who are still affected in the area? What provisions have been made for them? Are there relief camps set up, shelter,
Yes.
food, housing and things like that?
Immediately after this immediate rescue and relief activity which we carried out, after that 4 camps have been established, 2 for the survivors, all those persons whose houses are damaged and they have no shelters, they have moved into the shelters, 200 tents and blankets with the sleeping bags they have been provided, and food items have been moved from SDMA, and Pakistan Army has also provided some food items, and tomorrow we are also have planned flying some food item through a helicopter to Laswal village, where we can drop them and we can see aerial view of that, where we could really have some more resources in finding the survivors.
Right. Okay. So now let's get into this season. It's monsoon season, and every year we see floods. Every year we see flash floods, or especially floods we've seen before as well. So, and then you have heavy rains in the cities, urban flooding that you had mentioned. So, what are the provisions that we are taking this year as far as NDMA is concerned, and the provincial coordination that's required, as well as the local level preparedness? How well prepared are we for these monsoons?
Yeah. In fact, when the monsoon season starts, it is from July till January, September. If there is no early spell predicted, we 2 to 3 months earlier we start preparation. First of all, we start with the provincial level. We carry out the resource mapping and what life jackets, boats and other things are available, and with the support of armed forces we carry out the recce of the flood protection bund. All these bunds are okay, or they need some support. So we carry out all these kind of preparation. These are very extensive preparation, and then we carry out the mock exercises at the district level with the flood boats and OBM operators, and they apply their boats into the water and they test the equipment so that when it is needed it should function. Repair and maintenance is carried out, and then District Disaster Management Authority prepare their contingency plan, that how they are going to respond and what resources they have, official resources with the rescue resources and the local resources. They muster it up and make the plan, and then the armed forces which are responsible for the respective district, they also coordinate with the civil administration, and then at provincial level these coordination are done. Chief Minister or Disaster Management Minister of respective province, they chair those meetings, and then they prepare the contingency plan of the province. And then this process is repeated at the federal level with all 4 provinces and 2 authorities of state disaster and GB disaster management authority.
So the communities which are vulnerable to say flash flooding, do they have, can their homes be moved away from danger areas? Do we have any zone that they should not be building houses on near rivers and things like that in order to protect them from such events?
A very important point which you have raised. Community is a very important part, those who can play in the disaster mitigation measures. We can save their lives, but unfortunately there are areas in the floodplains, in the nalas, where they build their houses in the dangerous areas because of the earning livelihood and other issues which are prevailing in our society. We do ask district disaster management authorities and deputy commissioners to ask them to vacate these areas before the flood or some water warning is given to them. But unfortunately, there are problems when even the water started moving in those areas. So then we have to move the police and the armed forces to request them, to ask them to vacate those areas and move to the safer places. Because when there is no water, there is no flooding, the people start agriculture activity in that area, grow in the fields. So that these are the areas for which Pakistan and Federal Flood Commission is preparing a River Act, which would prohibit these people to reside inside the dangerous areas like in the floodplains and other areas.
Then they can be relocated safely.
Exactly.
And can the houses, if the people aren't moving or if it's not in too much of a danger zone, can the structures be made stronger as well?
This is again a very important point, that building safety codes. This is a very important subject, that we have the building safety codes, that what kind of structures should be built in those areas, different for different areas, like for northern areas is different, for the plains of Punjab and Sindh it is different. So, what kind of safe buildings should be constructed, so that in case of heavy rains, monsoon or something like that happen, or earthquake jolts, they remain safe. But unfortunately, there are building safety codes, but they are not implemented. There is a requirement of legislation on that should be strictly implemented in those areas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the urban flooding that we were speaking about earlier, which there's a risk of going forward, that is made worse. It's exacerbated by plastic bags congesting the sewage systems and nalas and things like that. So plastic bags are a big issue here as well.
Exactly.
So
in fact, in the urban flooding, the main source of urban flooding is this garbage, because our sewerage system, which is in some of the areas which are quite old, like in the interior Lahore area, or in the Karachi area, if you could ask, in the Gujar Nala and other, there is a huge piles of garbage. These are of the shoppers and shopping bags and these things, and these are the one which really block the sewerage system and block these nalas and flow of water, and that cause the urban flooding.
So what do you think, sir, that should they be completely banned, or should their use be limited to some extent?
Yes, there is some legislation required in this regard, because legislation and then strict implementation of that. One more thing I would like to highlight: these waterways which are in the cities like Leh Nala and Rawalpindi and other smaller nalas in Rawalpindi, which start from flowing from Islamabad down to Rawalpindi. Same, there are 29 nalas in Karachi. The flow of water has to be made free. There should be no obstruction. There should be no construction in that area. As you might be knowing it, there are many illegal constructions in these areas. They stop the flow of water, and then there is a problem for the complete community.
Right.
They suffers. For that very purpose, a strict administrative rules and instructions for construction of houses that need to be implemented by district authorities.
So going forward in this summer, now people are going to be traveling, they're going to be tourists going to the northern areas, and with the monsoons and the rains and flood risks and all of that, what should travelers be wary of, and how can they keep themselves and their families safe?
Yeah, exactly. This is very important. Sometime we see that some incident has happened in the GB and the northern areas, and beside we are helping the locals, there are many tourists
exactly.
they are trapped inside. But for that we issue the alerts. We inform the people generally on our social media website and others that people need to check this weather alerts and others before traveling, so that they are aware that this spell is likely to happen in these many areas, and that can affect our travel plan. So that would be very ideal situation, that if they travel after seeing the Pakistan Met Department some alerts, if they are particularly alert, because fortunately or unfortunately in Pakistan, children's leave and other things, they also coincide with this time of the monsoon, and people like to travel with families in these good serene areas of Pakistan to show their children. But sometime if they are trapped inside this kind of spells, then there is a difficulty for them and difficulty for us also to rescue them from their
areas. So do you suggest that they avoid these time periods then? Check up on the weather
alert, if they could continuously see the weather alert, that would be very fine. Although the traveling can't be banned for 3 months.
Right. And can you, what do you think about community and like voluntary based organizations in communities and in cities and all to help in such incidences? Can their capacity be increased and built upon as well?
In case of any disaster in any country, the first response comes from the community level. We need to educate our people. We need to train our children that how to behave in such kind of situation, and they should be trained and they should be made aware, and they should be really part of the disaster management structure, that how they could help their community. For this I can give you very good example. In Gilgit-Baltistan, there is a very good community training programs which is Aga Khan Foundation, they carry out and they train the people. They are really very helpful when this kind of situation comes. They are trained to give the first aid and other things, and
their Boy Scouts are very active.
yeah, they are
all
very
as well.
active. So that kind of such, things should be made in curriculum and other things in other part of Pakistan, and some organization as you were referring, like PRCS, Pakistan Red Crescent Society, and there are Rescue 1122 and other department. They are having some volunteers on their list to help them to really to community in case of any disaster situation.
Right, and in this particular situation in Neelam Valley, there's a communication issue going on as well with the locals, because they don't have landlines and some of them don't have the use of mobile phones. So how can communication systems be made better in all across Pakistan, and so that such incidences can be addressed right away? Like some of the villagers were saying, I was watching a news clip earlier, that they don't have water and nobody's gotten to them yet. Clearly there's some communication gap there. How can that be more streamlined?
In fact, in case of any such kind of eventuality, there are 2-3 problems which really emerge. One is road communication, that is disrupted and people are isolated. Second is the overall cellular communication, that is disturbed, and then are the health issues and medical issues. In this case, Neelam Valley issue also, road were disrupted, but immediately we requested FW, they moved their machinery, you must have seen in some clips, and they have restored some kind of traffic today. And for communication, special communication organization that is called SCO, which is responsible, they immediately moved and mobilized their teams to fix the towers which has been destroyed during this time. Right. And same is with the health teams, they also moved the health teams.
Right. So in addition to the number of people who've lost their lives, there's also 50 houses that were damaged and 100 others were affected also according to official reports, but then there are unofficial reports saying higher numbers and all. So you know about the building damage and the people's loss of people's lives, as well as the other damage that they've had to their property. Now, in addition to that, such climatic or environmental events, such disasters also cause health problems. They cause health disasters as well when you have water polluted, for example. How do we approach that how do we prevent that from happening now?
In case
and also to provide proper medical facilities, disease-free environments for these people.
For medical and food, immediately we maintain the stocks at the district level, at the provincial level, and the backup is maintained by the NDMA.
Clean drinking water stock.
Yeah, bottled water. For in such kind of emergency, we provide we ask the district authorities and others to provide the clean drinking water immediately, so that the problem is addressed till the time they are in the camps. But when they move out from the camps, then we have to arrange through the Provincial Disaster Management Authority with the safe drinking water by having the filtration plants established over there.
Okay.
But fortunately, in our Kashmir area, there are very good flow of water from the nalas and from the mountains. We can have it with a little treatment, with putting the tablets inside to making it safe for the drinking.
So all those preparations are already in place?
Yes, we know, and we keep it ready, these tablets, purification tablets, and we put it in the water, so that for immediate and emergency need for 72 hours, 2 to 3 days, we can use that, and then the system is restored.
Right, and these monsoon rains and the effects caused by them, especially disasters and all, are regional, because you're having problems, disasters taking place, mudslides and torrential rains causing issues in Bangladesh, India, Nepal, all over the region. So it's a regional phenomenon, and every year we're all facing them, and now it's being exacerbated by climate change, as you were saying earlier. So the effects of climate change that we are expected now to face, now this is a huge issue that NDMA will have to face as well, because it increases the risk for all kinds of natural disasters, especially these types, floods and landslides and things and such, and glacier bursts and the heavy rains and stuff like that. So how are we preparing, for example, for future food security? Our rainfall patterns are going to be changing and things like that as well. How are farmers and agriculture protected?
For your first part of question about what the disaster risk reduction measures we need to take, I think the government is taking very good steps on the two account. One is the tree plantation. For tree plantation, you really address this climate change issue. And one, this landslide and other things, and this Gulf incident, if we have sufficient trees on these mountains, they can stop these boulders, they can stop the landslides, because trees help a lot. We have seen the best practices in Switzerland, Bangkok and other countries to control this climate change and to control these kind of disasters. Tree is the best solution. As many trees we could grow, they would help to really address these issues. One, and second is that we need to have the we already have the awareness that we need to construct more dams, smaller dams, bigger dams, and we need to conserve this precious water. And this is used for agriculture, because a normal farmer in the southern Punjab or in the Balochistan or in the Sindh area spending a lot of money to bring out the water from groundwater. If he has spare water available through canal system, through irrigation system, he can benefit more.
Right, absolutely. Thank you so much, Brigadier Mukhtar Ahmed. Thank you for giving us your insights and all the information. This is very important for the public to see. And viewers, stay with us. After the break, we'll be talking about the food security issues that the recent State Bank report has said could be the worst in Balochistan in the upcoming years. Stay with us and we'll be discussing that with our guests.
Sitar is a plucked stringed instrument used in Pakistani classical music. The instrument flourished under the Mughal.
Welcome back. In this segment, we'll be speaking with our guest in the studio today about how the State Bank's recent report that the population of Balochistan, almost half the people there will be facing mild to severe food insecurity. Now, this is a very grave problem because it leads to many problems to the economy. Naturally, food security is very important. It can lead to malnutrition in children as well. Many other factors which we'll be discussing with our guest on our program today, and also the disparity that occurs between provinces in a country where staple foods are widely available. We have with us today to discuss this topic Mr. Zia Bande, who is an economist. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us today.
Pleasure.
Sir, this report that's just come out by the State Bank of Pakistan, this is an internal report which is saying that 50% of Balochistan households may be facing mild to severe food insecurity. Is this due to the fact that Balochistan being a poorer province relatively, plus is it due to its land use, it's more desert, less agriculture? What is the cause that Balochistan specifically has this issue with facing such a high rate of food insecurity?
You've already pointed out what you were talking about, and the major point which basically affects Balochistan is the poverty, the level of poverty. Obviously, you need money to buy food. So this province is being, it has been susceptible to the long reign of terrorism against the government also. There were so many things which going on. So it means the economic activities has been impeded in the provinces. And when you impede these economic activities, so it means that your dependency on transfers, your dependency on basically philanthropy will be more. So we don't have that sort of a social network which can basically feed all these people. Second thing which you are talking about, the area. Now, Balochistan is almost 43% of the country. Its population is very less, and it's a very scattered population.
Exactly.
And the second thing, the issue which you're talking about, is this, that the distances are very long distances. That means that you have to create the whole infrastructure for this food, for their security, for their warehousing, for their storages, so that you can feed the people at timely basis. Unfortunately, who's going to spend the money? The government is there to spend the money. Then who is going to take care of it? I've been to Quetta a number of times also, and I've seen there also. We are talking of Quetta. Quetta will not be a food insecure place. But Balochistan is not only Quetta. Balochistan is far bigger province than the Quetta thing. But still, even in Quetta, what we find are very surprising that they have a lot of fruits which are coming there, which are apples, pomegranates, and so many other things. But they don't have a proper cold storage system where they can secure, and then they can export also. USAID, they worked with them, and they have established certain these cold storages over there with them. And I have seen over a period of time that they have gone into disuse. So whatever the reasons are there, the problem is there, because food security will only become sustainable when private sector basically participate in it. And why private sector is going to participate? Till the time they're going to make money. Otherwise, what we have seen, that mostly the government policies or government support is unsustainable on its own, till the time it is not linked with the private contribution.
Okay, so that has to bridge the gap over there. Now, Pakistan is among 7 countries that cumulatively account for 2/3 of the world's undernourished population. This is along with Bangladesh, China, Congo, Ethiopia, India, and Indonesia. And the hunger index, it's ranked number 106 amongst 119 countries. Now, that's pretty low on the hunger index, and being one out of 7 who are, accounting for the world's most undernourished people, that is severe. Yet, at the same time, we are self-sufficient in major staples, according to the Ministry of Health and UNICEF. We are ranked at 8th position in producing wheat, 10th in producing rice. We are number 5th in sugarcane production and number 4 in milk production. So here we have such a high percentage of undernourished people, and at the same time we're self-sufficient in all these major staples. So is this a management problem of the resources that we have, or what exactly is it?
Look, when you're talking that we are at this number, Sharmeen, you need to understand. You need to understand the cuisine of the people. Where you're going to get your nourishment is from the food you're eating.
Yeah.
So you're not even eating only rice, I mean to say you have to have a balanced food where you have the proteins, the
Right.
carbohydrates, everything into it. So when you're looking at the numbers standalone basis doesn't make much of a sense. Many of these items are imported. For example, pulses. We are not sufficient in pulses. Pulses is one of the major items. Likewise, they are the minor crops which
Right.
are being imported from
And
outside.
edible oils and
Yeah,
everything.
okay,
Right.
all these things. Now, even why it is like that, there are two things into it. One thing is this, the poverty level in the country. People cannot afford balanced food. That is one thing. Even if you have sufficient food there in the ground or in the market, people cannot afford it. That's the point. Second point, which is important for you to understand, is this, the population growth rate in the country. The higher the population growth rate, the more mouths to be fed over there. How you're going to feed those mouths? That
Right.
becomes an issue. So it means that there are two things which are going simultaneously. Then you have another issue, which is a productivity issue. That you are unable, your population is rising, but your productivity is not rising that much. So it means that what pressure it is going to create? It is going to create pressure on the prices. If your productivity is more, in the same report they have mentioned that we are using 6 times the water internationally in global standards on rice, 4 times the water we are using on wheat. Now you are crying for water also, now you're crying for food also, and what you're looking at, it's wastage. That you are using 6 times water to produce this rice, is better to import rice from outside if you're producing so expensive rice. Now that's what is important for us to understand. Food security is a very, very grave issue, and they have so many tentacles in it which you have to study separately. And then you create a holistic picture that how you're going to work out with the food security issue in this country.
Right.
And it's not going to go away. Your rural population is very high. Unfortunately, rural population productivity is low. So it means the poverty levels in rural side is more.
Yeah.
When they are more, it means the food insecurity will be more. If you've been going, I've been going into rural areas in Punjab, in Sindh, in Cholistan, in Thar, and all these places, and I find their daily staple. I mean to say they have to be malnourished.
Right.
There's lack of protein, there's lack of carbohydrates even times,
And vitamins, fruits
and vitamins
things
and
like
all
that.
supplements.
Yeah.
So-
A quarter of Pakistan's population lives below the poverty line, and that's around 50 million people. And in the rural areas, the poverty rate is higher. It's 30+%. So as you were saying, that the poverty level is very high in those areas, and that contributes to the malnourishment problem because
Exactly.
they're not getting all their dietary requirements. And especially this is reflected in the children. The children under 5, malnourishment, that is such a heavy cost, not just naturally, to a child, you want the child to be fed properly, but it's also a huge, huge cost on the economy, because out of that, you have $2.24 billion is estimated as the loss of future labor resulting from this malnutrition in children. And then there's a cost of low labor productivity that you had just mentioned, which is $3.7 billion. And then chronic weakness and fatigue, which is another $657 million lost to the economy. That these are the things that the people are facing. Working adults with anemia and all kinds of issues related to malnutrition in childhood. And then you also have the stunting that we've been talking about in Pakistan as well, the stunting in children and how much that costs as far as their productivity is concerned and their future, their performance in school, everything. So these numbers are pretty alarming, would you say?
I think so. Materiality is less. The point is this: 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion. This is an economy of 313 billion people.
Yeah.
We are not even taking care of people who are healthy. What to talk about people who are stunted or unhealthy? I'm sorry, I'm talking blunt in it, but that's the reality of the picture. That when you are talking about the 2.3 billion or 1 billion, yes, that's a cost which you are bearing, no doubt about that. Because these economies, they can good in numbers. But the important thing is this, that what can be done.
Yeah.
Numbers are there.
Yeah.
But in order
Obviously,
to...
the human element
yes,
is most
so
important.
what is important, that do you have the political will to push this thing? Do you have the political will to go and push for the population control in your rural areas, where the families cannot feed even 2 children and they have 12 children in that house? So why don't you have those stunted people? You have seen in Thar how many premature babies were dying over there. And the children who are alive, their life is miserable than that dead. You know
And then
that.
they have high maternal mortality rates,
Exactly.
high infant mortality
And
rates.
about those women. So what is important for us? If you really want to care about these people, go from the grassroots level. For God's sake, all these MPAs, MNAs, councillor, local government, all these people, they have a responsibility for that. We are not talking in drawing rooms and we are talking in these cozy studios. We are talking about the real life of people who are at stake. And that stake can only be when you are pushed for that, your population control and the rural side. And second thing which is important, to make your cities, I mean to say, if you look at the numbers as per the census, there are 97 cities in this country which has a population of 100,000 and more. Make them your basically setting for economic drivers. Create, reduce poverty, create more economic activities for people so that people can have some way of living in this country. I have lived in China. If you talk about China, Chinese rural population was more than Pakistan in 1981. Today, it has gone far ahead. Chinese have an issue of food security. Chinese cities are expanding, and when they are expanding, they are taking over the arable area. When you're taking the arable area, the state has to make a decision.
Right. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. There's a very interesting discussion. We can take a lot of lessons from the Chinese, and hopefully we'll be having further discussions with you on this topic going forward. Mr. Zia Bandre, thank you so much for joining us and talking to us about this issue of food security in Pakistan. Viewers, now we're going to be going to the stock market, and we're going to see if the stock market has improved at all today. Basharatullah Khan is joining us online. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Basharatullah Khan.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Can you tell us today what the movement was of the stock market?
As we were looking at the market for the past few days, it has been under pressure ahead of this monetary policy announcement.
Right.
So today monetary policy was announced. There was 100 basis point increase in interest rate from 12.25 to 13.25. It was announced after market close. But today market was very volatile in the morning. It was down more than 300 points, but recovered and managed to finish the day on positive note.
Right. Okay, so it's been volatile. Thank you so much, Mr. Basharatullah Khan, for giving this information. Viewers, that's all the time we have today for the program. Inshallah, we'll see you next time on World Today. See you next time from Sharmeen Ali and our team from World Today. Bye-bye.